Hi everyone! Today I'm going to be telling you all about my favourite historical fiction. I have put them in order, so it's my top 10 favourite historical fiction of all time. It might change in the future, especially the order, but it's kind of like a rough order. Also, I apologise if my lighting is a bit weird because the light that I've got now is a bit flickering, so I hope you can't really see it. But if you can, I'm sorry. Number 10 is the book I don't actually have the physical copy of, but that is The House at Riverton by Kate Morton. There's dual timeline in this book. It starts with a big party, and at that party a famous poet seems to have killed himself. So the whole book is essentially about unraveling that mystery. Why it happened? Did it really happen? So it goes into depth of lives of different characters. I think there's multiple points of view, which I personally really enjoyed. I love the atmosphere of that book. I did not find any page boring at all. We had, I think, an interview far in the future of one of the women who used to live in that house, so it was from her point of view, so it was in the present, how her life was kind of now, how she was remembering all that, and then we go back to the events of the day, and I think that's where the multiple point of view comes into play. I'm not quite sure though. I've read it a few years ago, I don't remember everything about it, could be wrong on that, but I really enjoy the atmosphere. Like I said, the characters, the plot, it was all so good. They were kind of making a film about it, and I felt like the film was about to be real, as in I felt like it was actually happening. So I really enjoyed that book and I really recommend it. Number 9 is The Corset by Laura Purcell. This one is set in Victorian England, I believe. We follow two main characters in this book. So we follow Dorothy, who is a wealthy woman who is going to different prisons as a charity, but in fact she's doing it because she's interested in phrenology, which is a study of skulls and how the shape of your skull basically tells you who you are and whether the prisoners actually did have it in them, essentially that kind of thing. And then we follow Ruth, one of the prisoners who was blamed for murdering her mistress. I really enjoyed this book. The atmosphere again is gruesome a little bit creepy at times, dark. There are some scenes that are quite disturbing, but the writing style is so beautiful, it's unbelievable. I thought there were a few times that the author was describing something really simple, but it was described in such a beautiful way that it just took it on a completely different level. The plot was really intriguing. Constantly, both points of view were quite interesting. I especially like Ruth's point of view because she's had quite a life and that has affected her. It's a little bit more than what you expect. I really enjoyed this book. Book number 8 is The Light Between Oceans. I read that one quite a few years ago, one of the first books that I've ever read in English. And as far as I remember, that one is set in a lighthouse, potentially in Australia. We've got this married couple who live in the lighthouse, and then one day they see a baby on the shore with potentially 2 dead bodies. So they take the baby and raise it for themselves. That story was, for some reason it stuck with me for a long time. I keep sometimes thinking about it. The atmosphere of that book again is absolutely incredible. It is obviously set in a little island, I think, in a lighthouse, which is really remote from everywhere else, so it creates a different atmosphere. The main characters, I thought they were quite interesting people, and you got to know them to a point that you just felt everything for them, if that makes any sense. The plot again was really interesting, but I think mostly I like that book for the atmosphere. Place number 7 belongs to The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne. This edition is in Russian, and this is a historical fiction set in the period of World War II. We follow this boy who moves with his parents to a different town, so he doesn't seem to have a clue that there's a war going on. I think he's like 9 or 10 years old, so he's kind of learning everything. He doesn't really understand why there are people across from his house behind the bars, not behind the bars, behind the like a fence thing, where they're wearing pajamas, and he basically makes friends with one of the boys. It's a really sweet story, especially the friendship element in this book is absolutely beautiful, heartwarming, and the details of life of different people as well I found quite endearing and again beautiful and heartwarming. And this book is also heartbreaking. I've always wanted to reread it ever since I read it, but I haven't managed to do that quite yet. But hopefully I will be able to do it one day because I really enjoyed it. Book number 6 is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. Again, that is a historical fiction that is set in the period of World War II. I think everyone's heard of that one. So the main character, or rather it's narrated by Death, which is a unique thing. I've never come across it before. Again, the atmosphere of that book is just incredible. I think whenever I was reading it, I felt just absolutely immersed into it. And that book makes you feel everything. There are a few characters, especially the main girl, Liesel, I think her name is, what she's going through, the friendships that she makes, how she's dealing with everything is heartbreaking and heartwarming, because there are a couple of characters, 3 characters, that also got so close to my heart that I just still remember them on occasion. And they're just so sweet and so special. I find the friendships incredible, and of course it's called The Book Thief, so there is an element of her reading books, of course, which plays kind of like a big part in the book. The plot is again incredible. It's heartbreaking, heartwarming, everything, just everything. To be honest, I think I want to reread that one again at some point. Book number 5 just recently joined this list, but that is Where the Chordates Sing by Delia Owens. I actually did a kind of review on it, so it will be in the description down below for you to check out if you're interested. This one again has dual timelines, so there's 1969, in which we follow Chase Andrews, who's been murdered, and the Marsh girl is being accused of his murder. So there's like a murder trial. And also there's another storyline which is set in the past, where the main character, Kaya, is a child, and so it's kind of like a coming of age story as well as a bit of a murder mystery. I really enjoy this book. The atmosphere again is absolutely incredible. I had to read it for only a couple of minutes, and then I would just be completely immersed into it and forget about everything else that was happening around me. Kaya, she was incredible. She was really interesting because she's grown up essentially by herself in the marsh as a child. So she learned all of life lessons, all of everything by herself. She's got through such difficult things that it's just incredible to see what kind of person it made her and how it affected her life. It was absolutely incredible, and there are a few people, again, a few characters that were so incredible, so amazing, so, I don't know, it's just, they were one of my favourite characters. There were some of my favourite characters from all of the books, really. So the friendships that she makes with a couple of people is absolutely incredible, and even the murder trial bit is really not boring at all, because I feel like even to the very last page we still didn't know whether she actually committed this crime or whether she didn't. So the author still kept throwing clues at you for you to know what's happening, for you to think what's happening, which I thought was quite clever. This is definitely one of the books that I'm going to be rereading at some point. Place number 4 belongs to The Doll Factory by Elizabeth McNeill. This one is set in London, and this one is probably the only case that I'm going to read you the blurb of the book because it just sounds so poetic and beautiful. But appreciate the cover first of all. I really like the cover, and inside here as well. I pre-ordered the next book by this author, the Circus of Wonders, and I'm expecting it to come when it's published in May, so I'm really excited about that. So London 1850. The greatest spectacle the city has ever seen is being built in Hyde Park, and among the crowd watching two people meet. For Iris, an inspiring artist, it is the encounter of a moment, forgotten seconds later. But for Silas, a collector entranced by the strange and beautiful, that meeting marks a new beginning. When Iris is asked to model for pre-Raphaelite artist Louis Frost, she agrees on the condition that he will also teach her to paint. Suddenly her world begins to expand to become a place of art and love, but Silas has only thought of one thing since their meeting, and his obsession is darkening. I don't know what you thought of this blurb, but this book is amazing. The writing style of this book is so engaging. Again, not a single bit of it is boring. I just literally couldn't put it down on occasion. And Silas, the character that I think we're supposed to not like, we got to his head, we came to understand him, and he's a really interesting character, is what I can say without spoilers. So his point of view was probably my favourite. It was a little bit disturbing, but it was really interesting to read from his point of view, and of course we've got Iris's point of view as well. The plot was again amazing. The atmosphere, again, creepy, dark, but beautiful somehow. So I really love this book. I apologise if the angle or anything just changed because my camera died. But I was talking about book number 3, and that is The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. Again, the author of the course that I've seen on this list already. I just love this author. I've read 3 books by her, enjoyed 2 of them. The third one was a little bit not in my taste. I've still got the 4th one to read. Hopefully I'll enjoy that one. So in this one we follow Elsie, who is just newly married. She's pregnant. She's going with her husband to his house, and everyone seems to be not really friendly. And there's also one more problem. There's a silent companion, which is supposed to be a wooden figure, but it looks way too real. That's all I'm gonna say. But the atmosphere of this book is so creepy and so dark, but so amazing. The writing style, again, is absolutely beautiful. The intrigue, like I said, the atmosphere of the plot is always going somewhere. There are always twists and turns. So this book is absolutely brilliant, and I'm definitely going to be reading it at some point. I listened to it as an audiobook, but then I got a physical copy because I knew I'd have to reread it one day, so can't wait for that to happen. Place number 2 belongs to 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I read that book a few years back, but as far as I remember, we follow the main character who was asked to write a biography of a really famous author. So she invites her to her house and starts telling her the truth that nobody ever knew. And again, the atmosphere of that book is absolutely incredible. Again, it's really dark. I think it's perfect for autumn or winter. It's really like gothic atmosphere. It's set in a house mostly, and the story that the author is telling is so intriguing and so interesting. Again, that one has a lot of twists and turns that you don't expect. It is unpredictable, and I just absolutely loved it. And spot number 1 belongs to The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. But to be honest, it belongs to pretty much all of his books. I've got all of his books that he's ever written. This one is a Russian edition that I've reread twice now. All of his books are great. So this one is number 1 in his series of called Cemetery of Forgotten Books. You can read them in any order, I believe. They're set in Barcelona in the 20th century. I think they're all set in different times. This book, unfortunately, doesn't really have the blurb, so I'm struggling to remember of the actual blurb, so I don't say the spoilers for this book. But it follows the main character, who at the beginning of the book is a teenager. When he was a child, his dad brings him to the Cemetery of Forgotten Books. He picks up one book, and that's kind of where the story goes, because there is a story behind the author of that book. It's really intriguing, and it's really, again, dark and really atmospheric, sometimes disturbing. But the writing style, even though it's a translation, I don't know how the actual writing style is, but surely when you translate something, it definitely translates the style as well. The writing style is absolutely beautiful, really immersive, and again, when I was reading it, I just could not put it down, and I felt like I was in the story. So I really, really love this book. And all of his books, to be honest, now have a big spot in my heart, especially now considering that the author has died. He died last year of cancer, which makes me really sad. I've read all of his books apart from one, which is the last book in this exact series. And now I'm kind of putting it off because I know it's the very last book by him, and it kind of makes me sad. So yeah, on that note, these are my favorite historical fiction of all time. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, and also let me know what is your #1 favorite historical fiction. I'd love to know. If you like this video, please like and subscribe if you want to, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!